Hi everyone, my name is Cat-Lyngle and I wanted to go ahead and discuss with you guys another virtual tour that I'll be doing for a discovery project, this time being from the University of Oslo with Vikinger, a Viking Age exhibition. So what I'll be doing is a little bit of back and forth from their historical museum website as I'll be going with their 360 museum tour and then coming back here to the page where I will go ahead and then further discuss some of the images where they have up close shots and going ahead and really going into more depth about the history of the Viking journeys that they have and everything. But everything from this piece will be from 750 to 1050 AD, so that it will be going mainly around Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. So we won't be looking at too many other countries of Viking culture, but we will still have a lot to go off of. Let's get this 360-degree tour started. So this is going to be the Norse Viking history and everything. So it is going to be a little bit different with how I'm going to be walking around, mainly looking up at everything like that. So for first starts, I'm going to mainly be talking about a lot of their handcrafted pieces, like their weaponry items, and maybe some of their accessories as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So with the layout being a little bit different, some of the pieces we're going to go over is mainly a lot of their weaponry. Now, I know when people wonder with Viking and art and everything, people wonder what is the weaponry really going to involve. Well, while this has a lot of signs of debris and everything like this, a lot of the works that they would go ahead and work and put into would be a lot into their hand craftsmanship, mainly with how they would have simplified helmets, but their swords and other weaponry would go ahead and have much more details. We can go ahead and head over here and I'll move over a little bit better to see view. So a lot of these swords would have their helms or the handle of the sword where you would go ahead and hold the weapon be a little bit more detailed so that right there in the middle of that, which would kind of look like the neck of the sword, it would be a little bit easier for them to go ahead either one hand or two-handed hold. And it would also have it where sometimes the pieces in the middle, right where the blade and the helm meet, can go ahead and hold it and be something that they can go ahead and do. Now, some of them will have carvings on side of there. This could be something as much as simple of a name, or it can be something as complex as maybe like a prayer or something that they have in the old Viking language to mainly go ahead and help them as offer as a form of protection. But very much would have it where these would be have somewhat of details, but not too many. Next piece I'm wanting to go ahead and go over is going to be this helmet piece over here. It's a little bit different than the first few that we went ahead and saw, as this one was used more of a battle helmet, and this has a lot more intricate pieces to it. So what you see here is that this would be the front part, basically kind of like how my glasses are right here. The helmet would go into the front and kind of protect more of the important faces structure around the nose to the forehead, basically giving them coverage. Now, a lot of that was just simply by the design of the fact for more survival, but it did give them distinctive looks, which sometimes, depending on what Viking group was fighting and everything for wars or anything, it would help them distinct themselves with their comrades compared to their enemies. As we go ahead and continue to look at other weapons, they also had it where they have variety of different sizes of clubs, knives, and blades. Of course, a lot of these would fall and be kind of decorated over time, but a lot of them are very interesting as similar to the swords. Their handles are mainly be designed very specifically with a good look to them. Some have patterns, some have it where they're carved and have paintings on them, but it would have it where these could always be used depending on how wars were used and how people fought in those wars. They can always be used as a form of identification for someone so that you would have a good idea of who it was that you were seeing and who it was that you may be fighting, that it could be a friend or foe. So let's see. Okay, getting to the next part around here. Some of the pieces that this will go ahead and be used. This will be the part of the tail of the boat that would be towards the back. This will go ahead and have it where this will be used to help go ahead and kind of steer the boat in different directions so that while they were going ahead and mainly work of these boats mainly off of manpowers with different two rows of men on the sides going ahead and just rowing the boat, this could still give them a bit of guidance with the sail to go ahead and turn, traverse, and move around. This is very unique as this would go ahead and have a creature on there. Now, a lot of dog-like creatures are fairly popular in Norse mythology, mainly of the fact that there are a few gods that are known to have wolves around them, and even a god of Loki himself, which in this case was known as the Trickster god. He was also known to be able to transform into a wolf at times too, and kind of have it where sometimes he would lead the way. One piece I am definitely wanting to go ahead and take a good close look at is this beautiful monolith that we have right here. This has it to where the more you would go ahead and look from the very top of the piece to the very bottom, you would go ahead and see different showcase a story, whether it's a description of a man that would have a bunch of animals surrounding him, to even having these lower symbols and knots and notches down here, and what would showcase a bit of a battle scene right here. This would go ahead and capture important moments of what a history is on there. Sometimes even like on the side, like it shows here, it would go ahead and have some of the old language inscribed on there too, possibly to use as a way to go ahead and describe the history, explaining what was going on, and also mainly going off of finding, sharing the story that this would go ahead and showcase. Now, this is going to be a few bits of jumps I'm doing here, so if anyone has vertigo, I do apologize for that. But some of these pieces that I'm going to go ahead and talk about next are going to be right over here. If I can get the best view of them, this is probably the closest. So a lot of these helms and pieces and everything like that are going to be kind of similar to use as like shoulder pads and arm pads as another form of protection when they were fighting, because some of the weapons that were most commonly known, even stereotype but well known among Viking culture, is having a shield and some form of a sword, dagger, axe, whatever, and these would be used as another form of protection just so that it can go ahead and protect the joints during important times of battle, so that it would go ahead and risk minimizing damage on those parts of their bodies. So they would have it to where, depending on like what material they would have with them for metal, they would go ahead and change into different shapes and sizes so that it would be used as something they would have at an advantage to war. Now, these are going to be a little bit more different and unique, as a lot of these pieces right here would be used more as brooches. So these will be used as part of garments and part of accessories onto Viking wear. A lot of these is mostly seen on women, but it can be used by men sometimes if they were to be using a deception or be mainly using it to hold their tunics. These would hold a lot of different variety and uniqueness to each one of these brooches, as they were mainly used as like a way for it to be used as identification for your family, or it can go ahead and show what Norse god you mostly believed in as far as who are your following of, and also just have it to where, depending on if you were in a different tribe, this would be a way of them using it to identify who you were as a person. But yeah, this is so far very interesting, very fun to go ahead and see all the works that are mainly going through here. I'm trying to get best I can of some of the pieces here. So yeah, right here, these are going to be some pieces of pendants and earrings that were going ahead and used as jewelry. Not all of it was, of course, made of gold. We do have some pieces of silver right there, and they would go ahead and just have it to mainly be used as a piece of accessory. But this could also be have it to where sometimes when there would be acts of war and pillaging, these would be some of the loots that would be taken that could be used of value for trade, as amongst a lot of the Viking culture and North traveling, there was a lot of trading going on since they would traverse the seas fairly common and fairly often. But yeah, on to going back to the main page of theirs. Some of the pieces that I'm going to want to go ahead and go over is just mainly discuss about some stuff about showing what their society and was transforming and changing. So some of the things that I mainly wanted to go over was mainly showing some of the influences that were changed from that time point. So one of the first would be like this golden spur. So the golden spur is the only one from its area of its time from Scandinavia, and it would have what's called a Boris style of animals and pattern, which would have a lot of notches involved and have a lot of intricate gold filigree and granulation techniques. So they would have it to where this wouldn't be really be made by goldsmiths in Scandinavia until later half of the 900s, and they would go ahead and have it to where they would be fastened to boot heels and used to control movements of a horse. So this was mainly looked at something that was used as an improvement to help for those who would always ride into battle and use horses as a mode of transportation, so that they didn't risk minimize so that they didn't risk falling off or run into any issues. And then the next one that I would like to go over is the Langan sword, which was found back in 2011. And what the Langan sword was that it has a hilt with a lot of embellishment and science that were very unusual during this age of Vikings. And they had it to where they still haven't really decrypted what a lot of the letters and words around it have meaning to. but most certainly they have it to where it would be use numerous crosses and would depict a lot of Christian motifs and a portrayal of this holding a cross. So there is some no there's some hints that this could be someone involved with Christian belief, and they would also have it to where about it being used as a story of how about it possibly from the theory of it being from England coming over to Norway, that it talks about journeys and how it would also go ahead and really be evolving from what it would be originally deemed for a Christian sword versus what it was used by the Vikings once it would eventually get into their hands. But it's most certainly interesting, unique. I think the one aspect of it that I find really intriguing is just mainly how it's withheld, mainly with the hilt versus what the rest of the sword has looked and gone through. I'm wondering if they might have had like a different sort of technique on when they were going ahead and putting last finishing touch on the hilt of the sword, on if it was have any protective coating or if it was just mainly protected at that, because usually unless it was unholstered and used as fighting, it would usually be seen out most for environments and things like that. But yeah, this is the finishing of the Viking Museum. If you guys are more than interested to go ahead and see it, I would highly recommend historicmuseum.org so that you can go ahead and go through this yourself just for this. And also, it gives you access to this wonderful 360 view of the museum itself. For my citations, I have that to where they are both right here over in MLA 9, just so that you guys have both the 3D 360 viewport and also their website for that. Thank you so much.